this side of the business and just trying to help my investors grow, their portfolios and trying to help as much as I'm able on the renovation side. So very excited to be here. Obviously work with first-time home buyers. So wherever you are, happy to chat and help you dream about real estate.
Thank you, ladies. I also want to mention that Denise and I are part of a wonderful local investor group called Mastery. So if you do want to, if you do put in the survey that you want to meet with us and you want to learn more about that group, we'll be more than happy to share that. I just want to throw that out there. Another thing I want to just throw out there is that I'm going to be launching myself as a coach and teaching people how to house hack, buy multi-units, and use real estate as a way to retire. So that will be rolling out hopefully by my next webinar in May. So again, if you're looking to be coached, let me know. I could be somebody that would be more than happy to take you on as a client and help you really start a portfolio, build a portfolio, maximize your portfolio, or even scale kind of where you're at already. So shameless plug, moving forward. Next slide. So I'm just going to share a little bit about like, why is it good to house hack, and then share my story, my testimony on like how I've been house hacking with the same property for many, many years and what I've used to maximize that house hacking. And then Denise is going to share some case studies on rehab loans. So you're on this call to not only learn about house hacking, multi-unit investing, but you might want to use a rehab loan in order to invest, or even just a single family or a condo or your own personal home. There are wonderful rehab loans available. So the case studies are house hacking specific, but just know that all of these loans are owner occupied. So if for some reason house hacking or living in a multi-unit is not for you, we can still help you, is basically what I'm trying to say. We can still support you and help you in all of your real estate needs. Okay, so why house hacking? For me, my favorite reason is that you get to retire early if you do it the right way. So being able to use house hacking to retire early is why I personally house hack. And when you see the next slides, you'll understand what I mean. Also, another amazing reason is the best financing options, including a rehab loan. So you'll see the people who use the rehab loans, like how much it benefit them to rehab their property, get the financing from the bank, at the best rate you can, zero to little money down. It's just amazing. I can't wait till you see those slides. And then, as I said, little to no money down. So if you're a veteran and you don't know, please know that you can buy up to 4 units with your veteran loan. And you can have more than one loan at a time, and it's 0% down payment. It's a real thing, and no PMI. It's just one of the best loans out there. But you can do FHA, and there's also a couple of conventional loans that allow for 5% down for like single family and maybe a 2 flat. And then it's one of the best ways to learn how to invest in real estate. Investing in real estate, everyone wants to do it, but it's also not for everyone. So getting into a multi-unit and house hacking is going to teach you like how to be a landlord, how to, have vendors that you can call to help with repairs and, deal with those like late night calls or hiring a property manager. It really teaches you so much when you use house hacking as a tool to start investing in real estate. You don't have to house hack forever, but it is a good way to get your foot in the door. And with that said, it's a smooth transaction into owning real estate, obviously. And in case you don't know this, like when you want to buy an investment property, it's easily 25% down. So house hacking is a way that you hack the financing system to take advantage of the low down payments, no points usually, and little to no money down. You're not going to be able to do that if you walk to someone like Denise and say, I want to buy a 3 flat and I don't want to live in it. Denise is going to be like, great, I'm going to charge you a few points. I'm going to give you the highest rate out here. And you're going to have 25% down plus reserves, right? And so that's why it's called house hacking, because you're hacking the financing system. I mean, it's legal, but you're hacking it so that you can invest and add an asset to your portfolio that will produce not only passive cash flow income, but also it will grow in equity and you can have future retirement funds that you use. Next slide, thank you. Okay. All right, here's my story. So weird, I lost my voice. Hi, welcome, Danielle. We already got started and I'm just starting on the case study for myself. So many years ago, I bought a 3-unit for myself. I paid $195 for it, and at the time the rate was 5.25. And then let me just throw in some rate history there. And Denise, let me know if I'm wrong. But if you look at like the last 100 years, the average interest rate is probably in the double digits. And so I want to say 11% is what I remember reading on last time I checked into it. And so I know that during the pandemic, we were spoiled at 2% and 3%, but that was an anomaly. That's not real life. And that may never come back again in our lifetime. So, 6, 7, 8% is actually still very low when you think about the real estate economy in the last 100 years. So,
can I jump in a second, real quick?
Sure.
So, what Danica is saying, absolutely 100%. I think during COVID, it was unprecedented. It was unexpected. Government was trying to stimulate the economy and just avoid a recession. But if you go back into like the 80s, I mean, we had rates at one point, 20%. So when people complain about 6%, 7%, 8%, it is definitely, relatively speaking, a decent rate. Yes, we'd all love to go back to the 2s and 3s, but that was just never, sustainable. So, I want to mention regarding rates right now, because somebody asked in the chat that rates have been going up, and it's one of the main reasons that a lot of buyers have kind of just held off buying. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. But in the last couple of days, I don't know how many of you guys are following all of the indicators with regard to the recession and just kind of following inflation. And some of the indicators that came out in the reporting the last couple of days have been positive. So as an industry, we're expecting that rates are going to start trending down, which is awesome for all of you on this call and all of us in the industry, because we just want to jumpstart, real estate. It's been a rough couple of years.
Thank you for sharing that. It was a very unique time in history, and the American government did what they had to do to keep us afloat. Was it the best choice? Maybe, maybe not. Everyone has their own opinion, but that's what happened, and here we are. But yeah, 6, 7, 8% is definitely not scary to me because I've been around long enough to have seen so many different real estate seasons. But I like to share that because people who don't know the real estate market and don't know the history, and just know the last 10 years, they're just like, oh snap, that's a lot of interest, but it's actually not. And you have to remember, when you're house hacking, although you live in this property, you have to think like an investor, right? This is not an emotional purchase. It's not your forever home. This is a way for you to hack the financing system to get in minimal money, right? And best rates at the time, and get you in there to start building an investment portfolio. And so it's very temporary. And so even if the rate is 8% and you're at the top of the market with the rate, for example, like, so what? As long as the numbers make sense, then it doesn't matter. So you have to think like an investor, and people who invest in real estate think about the long-term run and not just today. So my purchase price at the time was $195. I did an FHA loan, 3.5% down. Let's calculate what that would have been. So if I would have paid a down payment, my down payment would have been $6,825. Not a bad deal for a 3-unit, plus closing costs. I got lucky. First of all, at the time I was beyond broke. Okay. I was in debt and I didn't have money. So I had to figure out a way and be like smart and try to get the seller to give me as much credits as possible so that I didn't have to come to the table with any money. And I was able to walk away with a $5,000 check. Now, Denise, if you want to chime in here, you don't see that as much as you used to see that back then. This was before the market crashed. Things have tightened up a bit and are much more conservative. But with veterans, I have seen where they literally get their money back for like earnest money and literally walk away without having to put anything down, including closing costs.
Yeah, one thing that I can add is, we're not going to go into a whole lot of specifics as far as programs are concerned on this webinar. That's something that we can talk after, as Danica mentioned, just to kind of, see which program is going to make the most sense for you. But one of the house hacking programs that, is most successful is through FHA. It's a 203K rehab loan. And for FHA in general, you can get up to 6% in seller concessions. So while it's not as common in this market, but we definitely have seen it, right? If you can negotiate and you have a really motivated seller that's willing to just kind of help you with your numbers, you can negotiate up to 6%, which in theory could cover your down payment. So it's all about being strategic and structuring it the right way.
I'm pretty sure that's what I did. Plus they had to give me, I know 6% is the max, but I think I was able to get the max because they had to give me closing cost credits towards repairs that I got after the inspection. So those are ways that we can immediately ask for concessions from the seller to the buyer immediately when we write an offer. Right now inventory is low, so you want to be a little bit stronger of a buyer, meaning maybe the more money you ask, the seller may steer away from it. But just know that when you do the inspection, if you're not buying it as is, and pretty significant things come up, you can request a price reduction, a closing cost credit, or a combination of both. And so that can help reduce your cash to close, money to closing. All right, so my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, which is what your mortgage payment includes, right? It includes taxes and insurance plus the principal and interest of the mortgage itself. At that time was $1,582. And then I didn't do a 203K loan, but there are two different types of 203K loans, and Denise will break that down when she does her presentation. One I call the simple, and the other one I call the full. I don't know what the proper term is, but that's how I call it. The simple one does allow you to get a minimal amount of funds, like I think it's $35,000 or less. I didn't know this at the time when I bought this property, but it would have been a good idea to have done that. Luckily, I had a parent who had the funds and gave me $15,000 because I had the other $5,000. And so the place needed significant work. And so we used that money to get it up and running so that we can get tenants in there and start, cash flowing. At the time, the rent for unit 1 was $1,550. It's a 3-bedroom. Unit 2 was a 2-bedroom. They did have separate dining room. Was $900. And then the garden unit I personally lived in. It was a cute little 1-bed, 1-bath. It had a lot of space, more than what I needed. Didn't have kids, pets, anything like that. And the ceilings were high enough. It wasn't like a creepy, basement apartment that you sometimes see. But let's say that you find something that does have a creepy basement. That can always be updated, and you can use a rehab loan as a way to get the money financed into the loan to be able to update that. What I love about house hacking is that when you buy 2, 3, or 4 units, you can legally live in a apartment that's not considered a legal apartment based off the zoning laws here in Chicago, for example. So they call it like an in-law suite, right? Or like a family room. They have all kinds of, proper terminology. But you and I both know, like, once we pass FHA guidelines, I can go in there and make it livable for myself, and I can live in it. And so that's what I did. I maximized that. And at the time I was cash flowing $868, but I paid most of that into the loan. I know there's ways that you can add an additional principal. At the time, they were like real checks. I actually mailed checks to pay my mortgage back in the day. Who's that old? Me. So I remember sending like my $1,582, and then I would send an additional check. And I did it like, I want to say once a quarter or once every 2 months. I forgot exactly how often. It's been a while, but I remember paying down my principal fast so that way I can pay off the loan faster. Now, that's not actually a strategy that I'm a fan of now, but everyone has their comfort level on what matters to them, right? Some people do want to pay off their investment properties immediately or as fast as possible, and that's great. At the time, I did use that strategy, and I'm glad that I did, because then, when things got hard, I was able to refinance. I was able to use the money to retire, and you'll see in the next slide, how that worked. So I was able to pay off the loan in 12 years. You can go to the next slide. So here's my story on how I've used this property over the years to take what I was making and put it towards retirement, or take a refinance cash out and use it towards reinvesting. And so in 2018, I refinanced the property, remember, because it was paid off. And I got some partners and I invested in an 80 unit in Jacksonville, Florida. Do your homework. It's a great community. I think we've turned around 69 of those units just in a couple years. And so now they were renting for a certain amount. And when we had turnover, we updated it and put new tenants in there at higher. So our bottom line in cash flow and our return is just getting better and better. So that's like a short-term investment. So I put money in that so that my money's working for me. And the rate of return is about 24%. Then I refinanced again in 2021 and I updated the property. So now I increased the value. My unit is super cute and I'm enjoying it more. It was so outdated. I really juiced up this property. I waited for a while to update the interior. Exterior, I did everything over the years, but the interior, I just updated a few years ago. And now I have capital in reserve so that I can flip or buy and hold about 5 investments for this year, including my next multi-unit. I've been making offers. I've got outbid a few times, but I am making offers on my next multi-unit, and I am using 203K. So depending how much work it needs, I may use the simple, I may use the full. And so I also have money in reserves because of this property. Because of this property, I have money in reserves to now reinvest into real estate again. And potentially, if I do meet my goals, by next year, I'll have a net worth, meaning like cash value, equity in the properties of $250,000, and I'll be cash flowing about $3,000 a month. That actually doesn't include my house hack, my 2-unit house hack. That's just including like little rental houses in the suburbs. Right now, the value is almost $400,000, and my current loan is $230,000 with 4.25% rate. Yes, I did take advantage of the rate when it dropped. So I was like, I think I was at 6 something, and I was like, yes. So I dropped 2.5 points, which is a significant amount. So I was able to take out money, and actually my payment was like $20 more after I took out a bunch of money. So it was a sweet deal. Now I have $165,000 in equity, and I'm looking into getting a HELOC to use that for even more investments. My current rent for unit 1 is $2,000. The basement is now rented at $900, and I live on the top floor, and I'm house hacking, living for free. My current principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is $1,826. Thank you, taxes in Cook County, for going up significantly. And then my rental income to me is $10,074 a month. But I have a whole life insurance that I use towards what's called infinite banking. Been building that out, and that's a whole other thing. I'm not an expert on that, but definitely look it up. It's very unique, and a lot of people are confused about it. But nonetheless, it's working towards money. It's working towards me putting away money that I can borrow against myself and add compound interest to my own policy. Oh my God, that door is so loud and obnoxious. Anyways, so yeah. Denise, you want to input anything on there from what I just said?
I would just say that, obviously your situations are going to be different, and that's where the custom one-on-one calls, we're going to have an opportunity to just kind of help you strategize. This is how Danica did it, but this is only one of many ways. So, you definitely benefit from our ability to think as investors and just kind of help you think outside of the box of how to structure yourself so that you're not just living for free, but investing for your future, eventually retire early and do all these great things as well.
Thank you. I just posted the survey again. If everyone can click on that survey and fill it out, it literally has like 3 questions. And if you're interested in talking to us offline and you say yes, just add your name and cell phone number and we'll text you and schedule a time that works for everybody. Yeah, so make sure you go ahead and fill out that survey. So you can go to the next slide. So if you calculate 19 years of me living in this property, and never having to pay a mortgage, that's kind of like a line that I use. Like, I house hack and I've literally never paid a mortgage. It's so weird for me to think to like buy a condo or like a house in the suburbs, because I'm like, oh, I have to actually pay the mortgage. And I've never done that. Not to say that I wouldn't do it, because as I have other properties cash flowing, it can actually offset my housing expenses. Nonetheless, I personally have never paid a mortgage, and I've saved in over 19 years. If you think about housing expenses, and I think I only calculated like $2,000 a month when I was doing the numbers. So 2,000 times 24 months. No, 2,000 times 12 times 19. Yeah. So imagine I probably saved a lot more depending where I want to live, downtown, Lincoln Park. I'm from Humboldt Park, and it's way more expensive than 2,000 to own in Humboldt Park now. So I was being very conservative with these numbers, but imagine what you could save if you house hack long-term and you reduce your housing expenses. Now, house hacking long-term isn't for everyone, and that's perfectly fine. Again, house hacking is just a way to get in the door, get an asset that's going to produce passive income for you. And I know people who've done this and they use the rinse and repeat method. So they'll do it in a year, they get the next one. In another year, they get the next one. And so that's worked for people, because those people usually have a really good 9-to-5. They make 150,000. They're techies. I was an entrepreneur. So one year I did good. One year I didn't do good. One year I wrote off everything and didn't want to pay the government. The other year, so it was a little bit trickier for me to do that. I'm older now, I'm wiser, and now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the rinse and repeat for a couple of years before I get that condo, in downtown. But I want the condo in downtown to be paid for by my income producing assets. So if that's something that interests you, house hacking is the way to go. Now, you can get in and house hack one property like I did, or 1 or 2, 3, and then stop, and now you have 1, 2, or 3 properties, potentially, 12 doors, anywhere from 6 to 12 doors that you own that are passive income producing properties, and an increasing asset that increases in value over time. Regardless of how up and down the real estate market goes, over time, it's always going to go up. And so you just can't go wrong with house hacking when you really want to learn how to invest in real estate and actually start building a portfolio. So that is my story. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to add something. So when I was starting off investing, I didn't have anyone that shared with me, this strategy, and I did buy a condo. And I had the intention of keeping it forever and just kind of, renting it out eventually, but my HOA didn't allow it. And I got stuck with a property that I wasn't able to rent out and eventually had to sell. So that's something that I tell all of, especially, younger, wherever you are, it's never too old to start investing. But if you're young, like, buy a multi-unit, get in with that minimum investment, set yourself up with, 3.5% down minimum if you go the FHA route. Because if you go, let's just say you start with a condo and then you want to go and you want to buy a multi-unit later, or you start off with a single family and you want to do multi-unit, we're back to what Danica said, 25% down. Versus if you start off with the multi-unit, 3.5% down, and then down the line, you want to settle down, you want to have your family, you want your space, then, an underwriter is going to say, okay, well, that makes sense that you started off with this and you need more space. So now we're going to let you use those first-time home buyer benefits again and use, the minimum down payment requirement. So it's all about being strategic with this. House hacking with multi-units is by far the best way that you're going to be strategic and set yourself up for the long run.
I could not have said that better. Isn't she amazing? That's so good. One thing I can say though is that I know people who've used condos to house hack, but the way that they do it, they either get roommates or some people that I know travel a lot, so they like hardly there, and then they Airbnb it if it's allowed, of course. But yeah, you can house hack condos if you want to live in a nice condo, get a 3-bed, 2-bath. You could essentially get roommates for the other 2 bedrooms, 1 or 2 bedrooms. Again, it's not for everybody. People don't feel comfortable having roommates. But there are people who don't care. There are people who have roommates now and are paying $3,000 a month to someone else. You could have that $3,000 a month mortgage payment and have other roommates pay all or some of that for you. Another thing I want to mention is that because taxes have increased over the years, being able to live for free in Chicago has become a little bit more challenging. Not that it's not possible, it's become a little bit more challenging. But I always tell people when they have consultations with me that even if you're paying under $1,000 a month to own a 2, 3, or 4 unit, that's way less than you would pay as a roommate for your own apartment, for a condo, for a house. So it's either you can significantly reduce your housing expenses to, invest and reinvest, or you can potentially live for free depending the scenario. Now, I've ran numbers with people like traditional long-term tenant numbers, and most of the time you have to come out of pocket. But sometimes people want to buy in Logan Square, like really nice areas. Well, guess what? You can Airbnb those places. Yeah, you're going to have to put in some money for furniture and all of that, but you usually make that money back pretty fast. So, and there's websites and stuff like that that you can do your research on, knowing, is this a good investment for Airbnb or even midterm rentals? So I am done. I'm going to pass it over to Denise. As I said, this is very house hacking specific. And so the next 2 slides are house hacking examples, but they use the rehab loan as a way to rehab the property and significantly make some good money. I can't wait for you guys to see the numbers.
Okay, so, again, I'm not going to go into specifics. I could take a whole other hour on FHA products. No one wants that, so I will spare you. But, we can definitely chat offline a little bit more about the program. One of the things I do want to mention, so FHA is a government program that allows you to put the minimum amount of 3.5% down. VA, if you're a veteran, also, 0% down. Both of those programs have renovation options. So you can buy a house that's a fixer upper. You're going to invest, put some sweat equity into it, get a better deal, something that's like, bank owned and, maybe need some work, but you're going to get it at a much better deal. So that's kind of what these case studies are. A little bit different, but just keep in mind, like you're bringing in a renovation piece. And by doing so, you're going to maximize on your long-term potential as far as your equity is concerned. So this particular case study was one of the students actually in the investor group that Danica and I are in. They bought a house close to Elmwood Park. It was a 4-unit with an additional in-law suite. So somebody asked a question about an in-law suite. It kind of just depends on the zoning and what, how it looks. But in this particular case, it was a legal 4-unit. So they were able to get an FHA loan. FHA or residential loans only go up to 4%. Anything over that, it gets into commercial lending, which is a whole other beast. So you want to stay at that max 4%. But this guy got a really sweet deal. He did have an extra little living space that, he was going to rent out. So, he fixed it up. He was able to get rents from that. So in this case, he bought it for $390,000 in 2020. He was able to use this, Danica talked about it earlier. So there's a limited and a standard 203K. One of them is up to $35,000, pretty basic. You can just roll in certain things like cosmetic. Do you need some new furniture? Do you need some, new little kitchen update? Do you need some, new bathroom, whatever. Anything that's going to fall underneath that, that's not structural, you can get away with. Anything over that, now you're getting into a larger scope of a project. In this case, he was able to keep it pretty small, $30,000. So his total loan amount, the 390 plus the 30 is the 405, which is what's financed. His appraisal came in at 550,000 when all was said and done. And we had a breakdown. This was when those lovely 3.5%, rates were around. So he got a great deal. In the end, he got 2,100 on the 2-year lease for the 2-1, 1,200, and then that little mother-in-law suite still got him 1,050. So he was able to live in it. And when all was said and done, he was net cash flowing $2,000 a month. So, and this is just a great example of how he was able to put not that much money down to help increase the value and really just strategically look for a property that had multiple units. When you're looking at properties, you're looking at, okay, how many units can I rent out? How many bedrooms are in each unit? Can I restructure the units, add an extra bedroom, add an extra bathroom? All of that's going to help you when you're renting it out to get stronger rents. So this was a great example of how he got 145,000 equity within a year. So excellent example. I can see the next slide, please. Okay, this was another strategy. This is a house that was purchased in Ukrainian Village in the city. 690,000 was the for 4 flat. This one was a larger scope project, right? So definitely a lot more in renovation, 210,000. We've been saying 3.5% for your down payment as far as just like what is the minimum that's required. But sometimes when you're looking at a property, and especially if you're house hacking, and in a case like this was a little bit more of an experienced investor who did have other properties. They were able to pull from, use that to put a larger down payment to make their numbers work. Because at the end of the day, when you're looking at properties, you have to look at what is your net cash flow going to be, aside from, if you're going to live there for free, which is a bonus. So in this case, he had 90,000 was what he did put down. Carrying cost, he basically paid 6,200-ish during. So the beautiful thing about a 203K is that you can actually roll in a good majority of your mortgage payments. So you're not paying out of pocket while you're getting all this work done. You don't have to pay double rents, anything like that. You're just kind of living and waiting for this to be completed. So in this case, he only had about 1 month or so of mortgage payment. His total loan amount was 809,000. The total payment was 6,266, and excuse me, when all was said and done, his total rental income was just shy of 700. So again, this is where Danica was saying, depending on where you're looking to buy, if you're looking to live in a really trendy neighborhood, maybe you're not going to be net cash flowing a huge amount, but you're living for free, which that alone is probably going to save you, 1,500, 2,000 in rents. But in this case, also, there's a net cash flow of $600 plus. The most beautiful part was the ARV after all was said and done. This is now an over $1 million property. So definitely lots of ways to be strategic. This is using the BRRRR method, which, is just one of the techniques that investors use, where you're basically utilizing the equity, refinancing when all is said and done, pulling it out and then reinvesting it in a new property. And then you just keep rinse and repeating. And this is the way that a lot of investors build their portfolio. And again, if you can do it with an FHA loan that you're going to live in, again, it's your primary residence, then you're putting that minimum 3.5% down. And if you can do it the way that we talked about, where you can negotiate those seller concessions, you can walk away with very minimal out of pocket. Again, it just kind of takes the right property, it takes the right numbers, it takes the right team, and you can definitely do it and create that portfolio for you. So if any of you are interested, again, we're going to be here to talk with you guys offline, but the 203K product it's a wonderful product. The VA rental loan also, fantastic for those of you that wanna, you're not scared of putting in a little bit of work into it because you know that it's going to benefit you in the long run. So I don't know if there's any questions. I know I did see some come up on the chat.
Yeah, so we're going to get to the Q&A, but I do have a guest that just joined, and I want to say a couple of things, and then I want to get her to share her experience. So this guest is a client of mine. She's a friend. She's also a client, and she bought a single family home, and she used a renovation loan for that single family home. Now she's not house hacking, but she is a testament to what it takes to get a rehab loan. So the first thing that I want to say is that the rehab loan is not for everybody. The reason why I do these free webinars and I spend the time and energy to put this together and share valuable free information to everybody, first of all, I'm very passionate and I love it. But secondly, I'm going to keep it 100. Like, I'm going to let people know what really works, what doesn't work, and set proper expectations. Tiffany can contest to this. If you ever sit with me, I'm going to give you what I like to call a Danica reality check. I do it only because I've been in this business for so long. I want you to have a good experience, and I want you to really make the most out of what your real estate goals are. And so thanks, Eric. Good to see you. We're going to show Eric some properties. Can't wait to help you get your house hacking multi-unit, Eric. But thanks for being on the call. And so one thing Denise and I really agree on when we've talked to several potential clients already who are looking to house hack and use this loan, the 203K specifically, is that it's not for everybody. And if you do plan to do it, you really just have to be prepared for everything that comes with it. So if you've done rehabs before, you get where I'm coming from. If you've never done a rehab, then you have no idea. That doesn't mean that you can't do it. Doesn't mean that Denise and I and Tiffany won't be the best team to back you up, educate you, give you all the proper expectations, and set you up with all the resources that you need to be successful. But nonetheless, I do want to be honest that it is a process. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Tara. Tara, thank you for being so much. Thank you so much for being on the call. Can you stop sharing? We're going to stop sharing the screen. There you go. Hi.
Hello.
Girl, I lost my voice like within 5 minutes of starting. Everyone that's on the call, you can please fill out the survey form for us. I'm going to put it again in the chat. Don't forget to fill it out before you drop off. And after this, we're going to answer everybody's questions. So raise your hand and let us know if you have a question or add it in the chat. Okay, so Tara, she bought the cutest house on the south side for her and her family. And she was approved for the home style renovation loan, right, by Fannie Mae. It was a 5% down conventional loan. So there is the 203K, which you can get up to 4 units. There is the VA, if you're a veteran, which you can get up to 4 units. But if you're looking for single family or condo, you can get a 5% down conventional loan with home style renovation, which is by Fannie Mae. So Tara, a few years ago, she found this house. It needed some work. So Tara, really give us like the elbow grease. Like, how long did it take?
Yeah.
What did you know you wish you knew? Like, I think I tried to give you as much information as I could, but like really give us the Danica reality check on, not to say that it didn't turn out to be a wonderful house and a great investment because you have a lot of equity in it, but let's just, share your experience a little bit with us.
Yes. So you definitely let me know it was going to be a lot of work up front, and I thought I was prepared for it. I'm someone who sort of, loves watching HGTV shows, like has my own little design vision. So like when I saw this house, which, was rough, but not too rough, I thought this was the perfect opportunity to get into, an area that we really love. And over time, realize that vision. So yeah, I thought I went into it eyes wide open, but it was definitely a learning process on many fronts. I think one, difference being, I think the loan consultant estimated that the work would take about 4 months. It ended up taking 8 before we were actually able to move in. Even then, our contractor and some of his team were coming in and out of the house to finish up, the last minute, punch list. I think I wish I would have done a lot more research around, what contractor, an architect to work with, because I went with, sort of that I was really excited about this house. Also recognize that the bank and this, you want someone who has experience doing 203K loans, because there are a lot of requirements and sort of hoops that they have to jump through. So I went with someone that they recommended. However, I think I ended up with someone who was used to working with people intending to, create rental properties or flip those houses, versus, me knowing this was going to be a house I wanted to live in, was very, much more concerned with like the quality of the finishes and, the quality of the work. And so I think my expectation in terms of the, the quality in the end did not align with, their like just the way that they were used to working. So those were probably my biggest learnings, but overall, just acknowledge that there was a lot of personal time put in to manage the project and be there to oversee things and flag things. And so I think you just have to make sure that you can carve out the time from your job or from your personal life in order to really be there and be present.
So good. So the first thing I want to comment on what you said is that it was double the time they promised. So everyone on the call, take a mental note of that. Every contractor is always going to, over promise and under deliver. It's just their way that they do business. I don't know why, but it's really interesting. And I don't know if Christian's on the line, because I know he's a contractor. He works for a contracting business, but like, it is hilarious that they do that. So whenever I sit with a client who wants to do a rehab loan, and I'm kind of getting them ready for it, that's something that I always say. Like, if you're not experienced, you don't have the resources, you don't have the connections, you will consider it to be double the time than what they promised. So thank you for saying that, because that's just a testament that was perfectly exactly what it was.
Yep.
Another thing I want to touch on is the fact that, yes, general contractors are really good at what they do, right? They're good at construction. A lot of them are not the best at being entrepreneurs and salespeople, business people, relationship people. They're not going to break things down for you, that kind of thing. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever got surgery, but I had surgery once, and the surgeon was like so black and white, like non-emotional. I was like, okay, you're definitely not like a family practitioner, right? Same thing with contractors. They're not going to be like your realtor. They're not going to be holding your hand, walking you through it. They're going to be like, what do you need? This is what it costs. Here's the contract. Let's get to work. And so it is just so important that you do your research, and you really vet the contractor a little bit more in the front end, so that in the back end, you're not paying the price. And yes, I love that you mentioned like reality, in the sense that even though it's all worth it, in that season, it's going to be strenuous on your time and your family. So if you're married or in a relationship, really have that conversation to ensure you don't kill each other during the process, right? I'm very close with Tara and her husband, so I know firsthand. I'm like, hold on, I got you. Stop. let's not kill each other. We're gonna get through this together. And so, like, that's so important that you understand the strain it's gonna have on you and your family, or if you're single, it's just gonna have a strain on you no matter what. But it's a small, short-term sacrifice for a long-term benefit, right? And so thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts or ideas that you think people will be?
One other thing that I was thinking about, I wish I would have spent a little bit more time and basically hiring a structural engineer to come out and do an assessment of the property. I think if you're planning to do a renovation, you need to do more than just a typical home inspection, because during the course of the renovation, we uncovered some structural issues that then, required additional funds over and above what had been laid out in the renovation budget. So just, and again, I don't think our contract was super proactive about identifying things like that. So, just knowing what you're getting yourself into, it's worth investing in some additional, services up front to really allow you to go into that eyes wide open.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. Thank you. I didn't even think about that. Denise, any questions or any thoughts to follow up on Tara's feedback?
I do want to add, just as both of you have said, these are not, usually contractors have the best of intentions, right? But they have their craft and they want to do that well. They like working with their hands. They do not like sitting behind a desk. And so when we are sending them paperwork that has to get completed very specifically for FHA, or, if it's a Fannie Mae product, whatever, lots of times they just don't want to do it. And so if you're going to go through this process with a renovation loan, you want to make sure that you get a contractor that's licensed and bonded, but also experience with this process, because it'll be that much more, efficient for everyone. And it will just, it'll avoid a lot of headaches that way. A lot of times, you just go in circles, going back and forth and back and forth with the paperwork and contractors. So if you can avoid that from just vetting them from the beginning, you're going to avoid yourself a lot of headaches.
Absolutely. All right. Who has some questions? Anybody want to raise their hand or just unmute yourself? We have a quiet crowd this evening. Last time it was like an hour of questions and answers. No questions, huh? We did a good job of giving you all your information. Has everyone filled out the survey? Can I get some chats, some yeses, nos? Nobody wants to talk. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Any parts? Okay, we have some questions rolling in. Any parts of Chicagoland that are more or less conducive for house hacks? It's really your threshold. Like everybody's so different, right? I mean, you're going to live there, so it is important that you consider that. But it's also important to consider that it's a very short term. I mean, I've lived in mine on and off for years, but I was fine with the location. So don't be too hung up on location in Chicago because it is short term. You want to focus more on the long term passive income. Are you going to have long term tenants? Are you going to Airbnb it? Are you going to do midterm rentals? That's what you really want to focus on the most. Well, first of all, you're financing your budget and what works for you, of course. But if you can afford $1 million, you can be in a lot of the, quote unquote, higher end areas in Chicago. But if you're just getting started and you can afford 300, 400, 500, you can't be as picky, and that's okay. And just know that this is going to be an asset that's going to increase in value over time, and it's going to be a passive, it's going to allow you for passive income. But great question. Another thing I would say about Chicago and house hacking is that it can be a little tough with taxes. So I'm very in tune with where taxes got out of hand. I have resources to help you with that. I have ways around that. And I have a lot of feedback and guidance that I can give you if you decide to house hack in areas that the taxes might be a little bit higher than what we need. FHA rehab 1 year life, Jack. I'm assuming you're asking is it, do you get like 1 year for the rehab? Okay, yeah, because I was like, yeah. 1 year life.
He's asking about how long you have to live there. So usually it's a 6-month requirement for FHA loans.
6 months, you said?
6 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I can.
Rinse and repeat, Jack, rinse and repeat.
Exactly. And if I can answer Hilda's question, because I was just typing it up. So Hilda, you can refinance. Well, I mean, you have a couple of options. You can either just go conventional. It's harder to go conventional on multi-units because the down payment requirements are going to be higher. You have to qualify for programs that will allow you to put less. But usually it's 15% down on conventional loans. But you could always refinance into a conventional and free up your FHA and then, kind of go about it that way.
For Stephanie, I do have a partner that's licensed in Indiana. So yes, I've been getting a lot of, Hilda and Donna Elise are from Indiana. So yes, we can definitely help you out with Indiana. I just got off the phone with someone today who is in LaPorte. So absolutely, please fill out the survey. If you want to talk to me offline, put your information on there. We can talk more about it. You answered Hilda's, yep. Okay. Survey. Nelly. Thanks, Nelly. So there are places, I'll just mention, there are places in the suburbs that are not very multi-unit friendly. Multi-units are much more scarce, but that doesn't mean that some suburbs don't have a lot more multi-units. So if Chicago's really not it for you, if you're not a city person and you don't care to be in Chicago to house hack, you can totally consider buying something in the suburbs, and we can talk about what suburbs are more multi-unit friendly. And if you have a specific area, we can definitely check all the data and see what it looks like in that area. Because I know the city's not for everyone. And also, remember, house hacking is not just a multi-unit friendly thing. You can house hack a condo. You can house hack a single family house. You can house hack an 8-unit if you want to. If you have the 25% down for 8-unit, you can house hack an 8-unit. So, there's the point that what I mean by 8-unit, you can live in one and rent the others and literally live for free in cash flow. That's what I mean. You can't hack the finance system with the 8-unit, of course. But if you lived in an 8-unit, I could imagine that you're living for free and you're getting a lot of money in your pocket, depending how you have that set up. So you're still hacking the housing system in some way. I've been hearing a year and even more with other programs. Oh, Jack, about the programs. Yeah. The guidelines, everyone usually says a year, but 6 months is, I believe, is right with the guidelines. I know people who rinse and repeat every 6 months. I don't know. I've heard of and I've met other people who have done it every 6 months. Would you necessarily have a location in mind before deciding on what loan may work best? You want to answer that?
Yeah. I think it just depends on where you are with your journey. Sometimes it does help us to kind of identify and zone in on like, what's your payment going to look like? What are those taxes? What are the market values for rents? So it does help us if you have a location, but sometimes if you're just starting off and you're kind of flexible and open-minded, that's okay too. Like we can really work with your scenario depending on where you are. And if you have preferences, we'll definitely let you know what the scenario looks like with financing for location. But it's one of those things where, you sometimes just have to just be open to exploring, right? And inventory is going to really be a big indicator ultimately that will dictate, okay, do you want to really stay in this area or do you need to broaden your search? And that's something that naturally happens. So, you don't have to have it all figured out just at the beginning.
What I will say is that if you decide to work with me and our team, if you tell me where you want to go and you give me a budget, I'm pretty much going to tell you if that's going to work or not, just off the top of my head. I'm in front of a computer running numbers all the time, not only for myself, but for many other investors and house hackers. So I have a fairly good idea, north, south, east, west of the city, western suburbs, south suburbs. I have a good idea of what something is going to look like. Even in the city, there are certain pockets where the taxes got increased significantly last year. And if you tell me you want that area, I'm immediately going to tell you and warn you that the taxes might be out of control, but let's look at it and I'll show you real life numbers. And so that's one thing that I'm really good at, is knowing my numbers and knowing my communities and like what works. I know Denise and I just met with 2 gentlemen and they were like, we want to live in this area. We want 200,000. And I was like, it's going to be about 450 or 500,000. And sure enough, when we looked at the numbers, that's pretty much what it came up as. Thank you for the question, Christopher. All right. Any other questions? I just really appreciate everyone taking their time out. I know it's beautiful outside. It's getting busier. I feel like spring has hit. My life is busier. It feels like summer, actually. And, but I am going to be doing these once a month. I'll have different people speaking, sharing a specialty like I had today with Denise and the rehab loans. She is the person you want to go to. If you filled out the survey, thank you so much. We will be in touch with you. We'll have more time to kind of look at your scenario, hear your goals, and do whatever we can to kind of assist you and help you, and look forward to you guys using our services. But I will be doing these once a month for the rest of the year. I probably keep it as a webinar. I just feel like it's just easier for people to hop on if they're driving, or hop on if they're with their kids and just like listen in, versus doing one in person. And so, yeah, that's just pretty much what I'm gonna do. Someone had a question, which would have a recommended minimum budget for startup. It's a good question. I'll let Denise start with that.
Um, that's a tricky question because obviously everyone is in different phases with savings. I would say, if you have a retirement account, like that's going to be a good start for you. If you have access to gifted funds, that's going to be an option. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I have to have, 20, 30, $40,000 in the bank to start this process, because sometimes you can work around those requirements. So, don't get caught up in the numbers too much. Again, it's important to just have that initial conversation so we could see, okay, well, what is your price point? How much would the minimum requirement be? How do we get, there's down payment assistance programs, by the way, which we didn't even go into if it's your primary residence for certain programs. So, there are options. I would say just don't even worry about that going into it. Let's have that initial consultation so we can see where you stand. And then whatever it is, based on what you're looking for, we'll give you a goal, but then it's at least more clear. And it's not just some random arbitrary number that you're just trying to randomly save for. Then you have a specific plan in place.
Yeah, very helpful. I can say that FHA is 3.5% down. So if you know your budget, that's going to be your down payment. But there's ways around that, if need be. VA, if you're a veteran, is 0% down. Awesome. And then the home style renovation is for for like one unit is 5% down. So those are just like the guidelines as far as down payment. But true to what Denise said, like, don't worry too much about that, because there's, once we kind of look at your scenario, we can kind of discuss that more. So you're welcome, Christopher. Thanks for being here, Nellie. I love my plant. Any other final questions? Don't forget to fill out the survey. I just put it up there again. And I just really appreciate everyone being here. Tara, thank you. Your feedback was really great. Super helpful for people to know the reality of what they're going to get themselves into if they choose to go the 203K or home style renovation route. Denise, any last minute thoughts you want to share?
No, I just think, I commend you guys for being here tonight. Obviously, it shows that you're interested and you're committed to change. And, we are definitely very invested-minded people. And so we're super excited and passionate to be a part of this with you guys. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some conversations and, buy some multi-units this year.
Thank you, Denise. I don't know if Tiffany dropped off, but if you
I'm here.
Oh, hey, honey. Hi.
Hi.
You're amazing. Don't I sound so cool?
What is happening?
I have no idea. I do sound better. The water and the tea helped a lot. Thank you, Denise, for being here. Denise is so good at what she does. She knows her stuff. She's great to work with. Yeah, I'm just really grateful, Denise, for meeting you and building a relationship with you. And we already have a few clients that we're looking to help start house hacking, and it's just exciting. I love doing this, and Tiffany does too. If you decide you decide to work with us, I wanted you to know, Tiffany, because when you see me, you see her. When you see her, you see me. It's just how we flow. And she really takes great care of me. I take great care of her. And more importantly, we take care of our clients, our friends, and the people that trust us to serve them and help them out. So thank you, dear, for being here. Have you enjoyed your summer day? For spring break. You guys had fun today?
We bought bikes today and went bike riding.
Aww, that's so cool. I love that. That's awesome. Yes, Tiffany's a mom. She has a handsome 11-year-old son who's going on 30. We love him.
Basically.
He's such a good kid. And she's like, I'm off today. Do not call me. I was like, yes.
Off, all the way off. Disconnect.
Yes. Work-life balance is important. And if anyone knows anything about the real estate industry, that is not an option for us a lot of times. So you got to really enforce it. And having a team is so good because you get to kind of like, I'd be like, hey, I'm sick. Can you just hold me down? And she's like, I got you, and vice versa. So Thank you, Tiff, for being my business
Thank
partner.
you.
And thank you, Denise, for all your wisdom. We did get some people to fill out the survey. So Denise will talk and we'll start scheduling some calls and seeing who we can help.
Thank you for having
Let's
me.
see
Super
who's still on
excited.
the call. Christian, thanks for being here. Christopher, Danielle, Hilda. Hi, honey. We're going to talk so you can stay here. We're going to talk afterwards. Jack, Kevin, Samantha. Hey, girl. We just talked the other day. Tiff and I will get back to you to schedule. Stephanie, Tara, thanks again for being my guest and sharing your wisdom. Jasenia, my sister, thanks for being here and being my slideshow specialist and my tea specialist. All right, everyone. We'll talk soon. See you in the next one.